Greetings, 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 ecstasy, abundance, and bliss to everyone who is within the sounds of my voice. Just completed the first spellcasting session with the Daughters of Tituba, Black Witchcraft Society. It was, of course, magical and powerful and uplifting. So I'm riding the wave of that and decided while on this particular wave to go ahead and create a video that's been on my mind and in my heart for quite some time. Pray that everyone is well and that everyone is receiving their portion of Ure or blessings that they requested before they incarnated on the physical plane in this particular lifetime. But I am the Apetabi Ielosha Ola Omi Akalatunde. This is Got to Be Oshun Television. And the topic that I want to deal with right now is the connotations associated with the term witch. It is very interesting to me that even though they originate from the same spiritual system and from the same path and way of life and way of thinking and being, is that we have very different reactions to the terms witch and wizard. If a man refers to himself as a wizard, that is generally considered a curiosity, something of that nature. Whereas if a woman refers to herself as a witch, this is something that automatically is considered negative, is considered dangerous, is considered satanic, demonic. All of these negative connotations come to mind. And I really think that it is important, or I know that it is important, for us to explore where these particular connotations come from so that we can have an understanding as to why people have the reactions that they have to the term witch and why the term witch became something that was negative. So first of all, let's do the etymology. Let's break it down to its origins. The term witch is Old English in origin. Old English is one of the old High Germanic languages. It was spelled W-I-C-C-E in the Old English language and still pronounced witch, and it meant wise woman. It is as simple as that. That is the original meaning of the word, is a wise woman. When we understand the time in which this term originated, it will also assist us in understanding the connotations or the thought processes associated with it in these more modern times. So during the time that the phrase was coined, or that it came into popular usage, witch was a wise woman. A wise woman is, of course, a woman who knows the phases of the moon and knows how to use them to manifest what she needs as far as her garden, as far as when to make her prayers, when to make certain herbal concoctions, when not to make them. When I was a little girl, and even now, you did not cut your hair, what my grandmother's called against the moon. You did not pull your teeth against the moon. You didn't cut your children's hair or do anything that you wanted to grow back against the moon. You did all of those things with the moon. So you had to have your almanac and know the phases of the moon and, what was going on astrologically just to live your life properly. If we take that back to ancient times, these are the meanings that are associated with what it meant to be a witch or a wise woman. She knew these phases, and therefore she used them to keep her garden straight, to keep her life straight, to know when to cut her hair, cut her children's hair, when to pull children's teeth, when to start new projects, when not to start new projects. This is common knowledge and commonly used knowledge among farming people, among agricultural people, among earth-centered people. which then, of course, takes us into two other words that have that same kind of negative, loaded connotation, being heathen and pagan. A heathen, from an Old English perspective, was simply someone who lived on the heath. So this was just a country person. A pagan just meant someone who lived in the country, lived on the countryside as opposed to in the city or a more metropolitan area. That's where these terms originated. If you look up pictures of old country women in England, you'll find that they wore black and they wore the little pointed black hats. That was just a fashion. That was how they dressed. So to associate that dress with witch is still to associate the dress with the wise woman. It's the old woman who lived on the heath. She still lived out in the country, and she paid attention to the sight, to how animals moved, to how insects moved, to how plants moved, to how the moon moved, and how all of these things affected her in her life. Nothing satanic, nothing demonic, nothing evil or wicked about that. Now, I'm using those terms satanic and demonic just to make sure that everybody's clear on what I'm saying. But I also have to be clear on that the fact that there is no Satan and there are no demons within any pantheon outside of those pantheons of the book. Those being, of course, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. That's the systems that deal with that. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't beings that were the enemies of humankind and that were sent to bring particular types of obstacles into the lives of humans. That's not what I'm saying. Those beings existed in all pantheons and in everyone's theology. But there was no negative equal to the positive head. So there's a positive head, a positive center of the universe. There was no negative that equaled that, because love conquers everything. Positivity and beauty always defeats negativity. So there's no way that negative can be just as strong as positive. It's not possible from an earth-centered, truth-centered perspective. So Satan and demons, those types of things do not exist outside of the connotations of those three spiritual traditions. So that's another thing. When you're speaking, you can only speak from your spiritual tradition. You can't look at the spiritual tradition of someone else and call it satanic if they don't even have Satan in their tradition. It's not possible for it to be satanic. It may be anti your tradition, but it's not possible for it to be satanic if there's no Satan in their tradition. So be aware, be wise. So let's go back to these connotations of the term witch. So we have this wise woman. She knows how to use herbs. She knows when to steep her herbs, when to create her herbal teas, when to cut her hair, when to pull her teeth, when to grow her crops, when to pick these things, and when to put these things in the ground. This is the wisdom that she had passed down to her from her mother, which was passed to her from her mother, passed to her from her mother. This is the wise woman. This is the old grandmother. This is the midwife. This is the healer. These were the center points around which life revolved from the beginning of humankind. This was the center point around which life revolved. So when we get to this issue of fear with the term witch, we are actually dealing with the fact that we have been socialized to fear and to demonize feminine power. Feminine power is looked upon as something evil in this society, no matter how it presents itself. It is looked upon as wickedness and evil just across the board. So any negativity associated with the term witch comes from a socialized and taught fear of feminine power. It doesn't come from a space of reality. It doesn't come from a space of harm that has actually been done, but it comes from a fear of feminine power. And I don't care what side of the globe that's coming from. I don't care if you're killing elderly women in Africa and saying that they're witches. I don't care if you're marginalizing and ostracizing women here in the United States and saying that they're witches. Any place in which that is happening due to a learned fear of feminine power. Because all ancient people were gynocentric. And what I mean by that is the lives of ancient people were centered around women and children. Why? Because without the mother and without the child, human life ceases to exist. And if the mother is not kept healthy and whole and happy, she cannot create healthy, whole, and happy children. And healthy, whole, and happy children of each gender become the future of the society. So every ancient society recognized the necessity of making sure that women were secure, that women felt safe and secure and loved and adored and well taken care of. Because when a woman feels that way, she produces strong, beautiful, powerful children. And you could not be weak and half-assed in ancient times. It's only in modern times that you can live life weak and half-assed. Hell, you couldn't even do that in the country where I was from. You know? And I don't mean I'm from a different country. I'm from the country in the United States. I'm from the country, from a rural area is what I'm saying. You couldn't be half-assed living in a rural area. My father had to hunt to feed us. That was 9. My father had 9 children. You had to hunt to feed us. You couldn't be nowhere half-assed and be able to achieve that. So creating a strong, powerful, self-assured, confident person was necessary in order to maintain life. You had to go out and battle and face down the creatures of the forest. You had to go out and battle and face down the ocean herself to become an explorer or to go to different places. You had to go out and battle and fight down and deal with, Earth Mother Onile and nature and the sun and the moon and the earth and growing your food and cultivating your crops. You can't do that if you're not confident, if you're not self-assured, and if you don't have a foundation of self-love. And it is mothering that gives that. All studies prove that it's mothering that gives that. It is being breastfed and being held often and being close to your mother's heart and being close to her body and skin-on-skin contact with the mother for as long as the baby needs it. These are the things that produce self-assured, powerful, strong people. Every ancient society recognized that. Every ancient society recognized the simple, obvious fact that life is created inside of women. Human life is created inside of women. That's just an obvious fact. And when you state it, it seems foolish to say it, but this society acts as though life comes from somewhere else. But human life is created inside of women. Therefore, the most cared for and protected members of your society have to be those members that carry life. Now, this particular understanding of life put women in a position of power, because women are power, not power over, not power of domination and control, because if you have to dominate somebody, then you're not really powerful, you're just abusive. If you have to control somebody's actions, you're not powerful, you're just abusive. But women are power. Every ancient society recognized that because they house life. And if you are the vessel that houses life, you already see everything differently. You already see into the future and you're already thinking 5 years ahead. You don't have a choice but to do so. So every ancient society recognized that and therefore put women in positions of power and respected the words and the ways and the mores of women and used this as the basis of society. This is why ancient societies called women the mothers of civilization, the mother of life, the mother of the earth, the mother of agriculture, because women created all of these things when they felt safe and secure and well taken care of and were not abused and ground underfoot. So with the need, once we have the rise of Greco-Roman society, and I mean, of course, before this, we have the Aryans coming out of the Caucasus Mountains and beginning the destroy of the matriarchies. And we see this in the mythology of that time, where you first had this goddess that was ruling over everything and making sure that everything was held together by her love, because she gave birth to all of it. And after that, then you have this young male that would kill the goddess. So this represents, from the perspective of mythology, the coming of the patriarchies and the destruction of the matriarchy. So that took place. But with the rise of Greco-Roman society and their determination to spread all over the entire earth, they became particularly aggressive in their undermining of feminine power. And so part of what they did, and we see Greco-Roman society reaching its pinnacle in so many ways when they went and took over England. When the Romans went and England, early England became a Roman colony. So you see it reaching its pinnacle there in England, and in British society continued and continues to this day, both in Great Britain and here in America, to carry out this, Roman vision of spreading their culture and their way of thinking all over the earth, or infecting basically the earth with this horrible, destructive way of thinking. So they became very ferocious in their need and desire to destroy feminine power, because once you have taken away that power of the mother and that influence of the mother, then the children are putty in your hands. And you can abuse them and use them and create whatever sort of tool you want to out of them, so that it can be used for your, agenda, as opposed to a child who is going to be focused on fulfilling his own destiny or fulfilling her own destiny. So you have a wholesale campaign, if you would, propaganda campaign against the power of women. So at some point in British society, they begin, or European society, Western society, I should say, they begin to dismantle the sacredness of the midwife, the sacredness of the healer woman, the sacredness of the old grandmothers that would take care of everybody, and they came with the ancient wisdom. They began to dismantle that. And as a part of that came this criminalization and demonization of the wise woman, of the witch, that we still hold on to until this day. Calling a woman a witch can sometimes be synonymous with calling her a bitch, which is, a derogatory term. But calling a woman a witch may mean to say she's just an old witch, But she an old wise woman. That's not a term of that's not a derogatory term. It's not an insult, is what I'm trying to say. That's actually a compliment. So any negative connotation, I'm saying any negative feeling or emotion that you associate with that word is coming from an innate fear of feminine power. Yes, women are that powerful. Yes, women do carry the power of the universe inside them. Yes, that is who women are. And that's just the truth of life. That's just part of being here. I don't say it from a perspective of any sort of superiority, inferiority, or anything like that. I'm just talking about what's true. We all know what's true. We all know that babies grow inside of women, and then once they come out of women, they nurse from women. We all know that this is true. So that I'm not saying anything that nobody knows. Nobody has to go off on a tangent about, me hating men or anything foolish like that. Well, how does that mean you hate men? You can't have no baby inside you without a man. So for me to say that women carry Ashe in their body, the Ashe of the universe in their body, I have no idea how that's synonymous with me hating men. I don't know how people link those two things together. That's not what that means. It's just the truth of life. It's just okay. It's like saying grass is green and the sky is blue. It's just what is. And it's okay. But you have been, and we have been, pulled so far away from that we're more comfortable believing ridiculous things that we've never seen, like somebody being created from somebody's rib. You know? Somebody being sculpted out of dirt, as opposed to just born from a vagina like all of us are. Coming from a womb like all of us do. We would rather believe something fantastical than to put the credit and give credit where we know it's actually due. So when I hear and see and experience all of this negativity associated with the term witch, I see it and experience it as a backlash of, and the assault against the great mothers, against the Mother Earth Mother Onile, against Mother Moon Oshupa, against the wombs of women that are constantly being misused in this society and abused and mistreated and used. The womb itself is used as a derogatory term, If you're from the Caribbean and you call somebody, a Ross clot, you're talking about the blood clots that come out of a woman's vagina when she's having her moon time. How is that an insult? That's what we all made out of. We all bumble clots and Ross clots anyway, ain't we? That's what we're made out of. That's the substance that makes you. But that's an insult. I myself have called people bitch made. So what you basically saying when you say somebody's bitch made is you saying they act like a girl. They act like a woman. How is that an insult? You see what I'm saying? Oh, pussy ass nigga. He acts like a vagina. How is that an insult? It's where we all came from. It's the only organ that can withstand the type of pain that it withstands. And if it couldn't, none of us would be here. But somehow it's an insult. So we live in a culture that's steeped and that continues to perpetuate this hatred of all things feminine. This kind of vehement hatred of all things feminine. It continues to perpetuate. And when I say I'm a witch and everybody looks like that, that's still a part of it. You just scared of feminine power, which doesn't make any sense because it's feminine power that made you. It's feminine power that fed you. It's feminine power that clothed you from the time that you were small. And some of us still after we was grown. Our mamas were still feeding and clothing and taking care of us. And we give thanks for it because hell, we wouldn't be here if she hadn't been there to do it. But we got the nerve to act like that's terrifying to us. Oh, I'm scared of all that feminine power. At some point, everybody, males, females, you're going to have to wake up and stop being so blind. Stop allowing yourself to just fall into these patterns. Check yourself and see why do I have this reaction when I hear this word? What is it about this word that makes me feel this way? What visions come to my mind? What kind of assumptions am I making when I hear the term witch that's making me recoil in fear or that's making me recoil in disgust? What am I associating with this term and why? You have to ask yourself that. We are living in such a deceptive society that you have to dissect your thoughts and purify them. Get them in line with reality so that you can just be living a real life. I ain't promising no, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or pie in the sky. That's not where I'm going with it. I'm just saying I personally rather live a real life than a fake life. I don't want to be living somebody's fantasy, somebody's the twisted fantasy of some abuser, the twisted fantasy of some child molester. And when I think about living in the fantasy of a Greco-Roman madman, that's what comes to my mind. Because ancient Greece and ancient Rome were a place in which child molestation was the norm. The rape of children was the norm, especially little boys. And so I don't want to live that fantasy. I don't want to live in the mind of that person and be living my life based on what some abusive molester thought, was how life should be. That's not how I want to live my life. I want to live a real life. I came to this physical realm to fulfill my destiny. I can't fulfill it if I'm trying to live like, Plato and Aristotle, who had to be child molesters. You couldn't rise up in the ranks like that in that society if you wouldn't. So, it is the night of the full moon. The big, beautiful, glorious October full moon. It is my birth month. I'm about to turn 44. Go me. Go me. And it is a lunar eclipse this evening. In a few days, it will be Samhain, also known as Halloween, which is the biggest holy day of the witches or the wise women. We celebrate the fact that the veil between the worlds is the thinnest. So we celebrate our ancestors and our ability to continue to communicate with them, and the fact that nothing is lost and that we always remain connected to those who have loved us and who have taken care of us. So it's a wonderful time. This is a beautiful time. And through this time, I have just been meditating upon this. And I wanted to share it with you. It's a little bit long. I tried to, get out of the habit of making long videos, but then I just got out of the habit of making videos. So now that I'm back to it, it's a little bit long, and I don't apologize, but I do acknowledge that it is long. But I pray that it is enjoyable for you. And I pray that this month and this beautiful celebratory time with your ancestors is magical and powerful and uplifting for you and brings you what you need and want, because your desires are important to the universe. The universe wants you to have what you want just as badly as you want to have it. And these are your real desires, not desires that have been created by chemicals or, abuse or strange things that have happened to you. Your real, actual desires. I am teaching part 2 or class 2 of Black Witchcraft beginning on October 24th. It is $50 for 5 weeks of courses. We will learn the indigenous Black origins of witchcraft. We will learn what it means to be, what type of spiritual vessel you are when you are an African woman and exactly what that means. And then we will go over spell casting and how that is unique to us as women of color, as indigenous women, as original women. If you participate in the Black Witchcraft course, then you are eligible to become a member of the Daughters of Tituba Black Witchcraft Society, which is a group of women of color who work together, who do spiritual works together virtually, and soon, I pray, face to face. So the Daughters of Tituba is a $20 a month subscription in which you get discounts on readings with me. You get discounts on my books. You get discounts on the herbs that I distribute. And you will get discounts on other workshops that I'm doing, throughout that time. So that is those are the perks of being members of that society. Then we meet every new moon and every full moon, virtually and face to face, and up on the important Sabbaths of the craft. So that's my little spiel. I am feeling good, riding this wave of goodness, and I pray that all within the sound of my voice are richly and thoroughly blessed. I wish you ecstasy, abundance, and bliss if you are sending the same to me, and I send the lessons of life to those who are wishing me otherwise. All right, Ashe, Ashe, Ashea.